There are very few shows that match the thrill and adrenaline rush that viewers get from watching the street drag race show Street Outlaws, which has been on the Discovery Channel since 2013. As much as the race itself serves as a major pull for the viewers, the personalities involved in these races also play a great role. One such personality is Chris Dave, aka Kamikaze Chris, who entered the show in its third season. Along the line, however, his fans got worried over his disappearance from the show, with no proper clarification from the producers of the show. So what really happened to Kamikaze? Firstly, for one to venture into an unconventional career like street drag racing, there has to be some kind of drive from an early stage, nurturing the skills and courage required to excel in the sport. Chris Dave turns out to be one of the very few individuals who dare take this career path. From a young age, Chris was introduced to the skills and also made to build up the courage needed to fit into such a risky career by his father. Turns out Chris's father was also a master in the game. From the little information available, he was skilled in bike, boat, and car racing, an all-rounder of some sort. Sadly, Chris has managed to keep his private life and that of his family away from the public, so very little is known about his father's exploits in the sport. Chris, however, let out a little information on a post that he made on his Facebook handle on the 29th of July 2015, as a tribute to his old man. From the post, we learned that his old man had passed at age 44, which is a pretty young age. He also got to share some fun memories, recalling that he had taught him and his other friends all that they know. In the post, Chris referred to Justin Shearer and Tyler Flip. The three have been together for quite a long time, which now excludes Flip, who had passed on some years back. Chris also throws some light on the fact that his father was strict and industrious. Little wonder where Chris had learned his way around engines and cars. He mentioned that the old man built the boats that he used in racing himself. Though passion might have been the main driving force behind Chris's involvement in racing, his father's strictness might have also played a role in instilling the discipline that he needed to progress in the field. He even whooped them whenever it seemed they were going off from what they were taught. All this wasn't in vain anyway. Watching his father while growing up, Chris started to nurture his love for the sport and turned out to be quite an adrenaline junkie himself. At a really young age, he happened to have his own bike, with which he built up his courage and love for racing. His longing for the thrill and display of fearlessness had earned him the nickname Kamikaze, after the legendary Kamikaze. The nickname Kamikaze is a testament to the fearlessness that Chris is known for while on the tracks. This was a reference to the Japanese kamikaze from the World War II. As much as this might have pointed to his courage, it might have been the foundation that led up to the events, which almost took Chris's life later on. While growing up, Chris wasn't alone in this thirst for the thrills of racing. He shared this with his father and also a longtime friend, Justin Shearer, who you might know as Big Chief by his side. The duo grew and never forgot what they started with. Chris's father was more like Justin's second father, and was a major influence in his later career in street racing. Big Chief, as he is fondly called, was a name given to him by the likes of Chris and has stuck ever since. He appeared in the premiere of Street Outlaws in 2013 and has since played a major role in identifying and recruiting talents for the show. It was through him that the likes of Chris got into the show and have been living up to expectations. Career boost. Before the move to the Discovery Channel, very little was known about Chris Dave. His appearance in the show Street Outlaws in the third season, which showed in 2014, was the major push that Chris Dave got into fame. But despite the newfound attention, he focuses the narrative on his exploits and achievements on the tracks. Chris's personal life remains hidden to a reasonable extent. Shortly after he joined the show, Chris the Kamikaze quickly became a household name among fans of the show, especially for the way he has become one with his vehicle, taking untold risks to find the possible best approach to come out at the top after each race. From a very young age, Chris had learned that his vehicle serves as an extension of himself. With this in mind, the young lad became well at home with each vehicle that he has ever driven, personalizing each one to meet his taste and vision and making him an opponent that no one should ever underestimate in a race. The most popular vehicle that Chris has driven on the tracks of the Street Outlaws is the El Camino, which is nicknamed the Elko. Chris wasn't the original owner of this vehicle. It was handed down to him by Justin Shearer, who took it under his custody after their dear friend Tyler passed away in 2013. Though many people loved to see Tyler on the Street Outlaws show premiere in 2013, what many didn't realize is that Tyler, popularly called Flip, was no longer alive when the show premiered. He passed away in May of that year and was buried in June. He was the third person in Chris's circle who also benefited from Chris's father's racing experience. The trio, Chris, Justin, and Tyler, often rode their bikes to go and watch races when they were much younger, which created a really strong bond between them. To this day, no one is really sure about what had caused Tyler's death. The details have remained blurry as neither his family nor the show producers have released any official statement in this regard. All we have are speculations. One thing is clear though, the racer didn't pass away from race-related accidents. He had died in his home in Yukon, Oklahoma. According to speculations from fans, he might have died from gunshot wounds. What isn't clear is if it had been self-inflicted or from an attack. Regardless, the Tyler that many saw on the premiere of Street Outlaws was fearless and performed really well on the tracks in his 1980 Chevy El Camino. He fondly called the car the Slut, owing to the fact that it was built with different car parts and had very unique modifications. The racer was one of those personalities that anyone would find really difficult to replace on the show. What we saw after Tyler had died was a kind of preservation of his time on the tracks by his friends. Though someone like Justin had considered the El Camino a ticking bomb, because he thought that the car might explode or stop working along the line due to the heavy modifications, he had preserved the car after their friend passed. He later handed it to Kamikaze, just as a way to keep their friend's memory alive on the tracks. Ever since, up until 2020, the car has been very well looked after by Chris, who made it a lot safer to race in, and even faster. The bond that had existed between the trio was a testament to what true friendship looked like. They were able to defy all odds together and learned the discipline and dedication required to build a solid career in the tracks. All three are known today for their exploits on the tracks, in the not-so-legal street racing. Overlooking the risks and staring death right in the face each time, they had moved on to build something really beautiful, inspiring love in some fans who have watched them break records on the tracks. Their network was their major push to greater heights. Big Chief and Flip were the ones that first stepped into the tracks. It was through their influence in the sport that Chris got the opportunity to take on a similar task. It was among this group of friends that Justin got the name Big Chief, which has become one of the most popular names on Street Outlaws to this day. Fast forward to mid-2020, Big Chief's reservations about the El Camino might have materialized, leading up to an event that almost cost the show a character like Kamikaze Chris. Chris has succeeded in building a thing for himself on the tracks despite his humble background. He has been engaged in different ventures in a bid to be able to afford his dreams on the tracks, leading him to a life that is committed to building and working on things that have an engine. This way, he could afford his early career participating in local Oklahoma races, where he honed his skills for scenes like the Street Outlaws. Considering the cost of getting these high-performance cars ready for the tracks, you can imagine the type of relief that Chris must have gotten when Justin handed him Tyler's El Camino. He had always cherished the vehicle, treating every race as a tribute to a dear friend. That feeling was soon to be short-lived as a very unexpected event happened in 2020, which became very devastating for Chris, taking him out of the scenes of Street Outlaws to this day. Racing is quite an expensive venture and takes up a lot of resources to build and maintain the vehicles that you see taking part in some of these crazy ventures. All the money is spent at the risk of losing it all to a crash. And in such situations, thanks to the safety features that come as standard with these vehicles, the racers mostly come out without a scratch. But on other occasions, there have been situations where the racers come out seriously injured and might have cars that are beyond repair. So aside from losing money bets on the show, where the loser ends up going home with no prize money, you stand a huge chance of losing all the investments made in building these vehicles. The latter turns out to be the fate of the fan favorite Kamikaze Chris. No one was sure what exactly the cause was, but Chris lost control of his vehicle in the middle of a race in 2020, leading the car to crash onto one of the barricades on the side of the tracks. An event that left Chris devastated, as later gathered from the racer after he was pulled out of the wrecked Elko alive. To him, this was a major hit. He didn't just end up losing the prize money for the competition. He was also to start looking for a new vehicle, as the Elko was damaged beyond repair. It was a miracle that the show didn't record the loss of one of their racers on that day, a huge relief for all the fans of the show. The crash provided a little insight into why the sport is largely deemed illegal. Every racer sets out each day not knowing what his fate will be on the tracks. The danger that is faced on the tracks isn't just for street drag racing. Even professional racers in more organized races like the F1 face similar dangers. One could only hope that the regulations on the standard of the vehicles featured in these races remain strong, because it could have only been this that saved Chris from that accident. We learned later on that the accident might have been a result of Chris downplaying a fault that he had noticed on the vehicle's drive shaft earlier on. He just couldn't resist the urge when he was challenged to a race, which ended up costing him everything on that day. A move to prove dominance turned out to be a devastating event that will remain fresh in the memory of Chris and his fans, who might have thought that they lost him that day. The tension felt by fans was heightened when they didn't see their favorite back in the subsequent seasons of the show. Speculations started to grow that he might have been fired from the show. But that remains most unlikely, as he has been seen participating in some other local races in Oklahoma and some of the Street Outlaws spin-offs as well. No matter what Chris might have faced in the tracks, the near-death experience taking him out of the tracks might just take more than one accident and losing a cherished car. And you will also be wrong to think that he isn't fully back because he hasn't gotten a vehicle to secure a spot on the show. Just about a month ago, a Reddit handle at BuddyDog shared a video where Chris gave an update about what his fans should expect and what he is currently doing. He also cleared the air on his status with Street Outlaws. From the video, he made it clear that many fans have been concerned about what he has been up to ever since he got in the crash, and said that he is still very much part of the Street Outlaws show, though he might not really be very active at the time. At the moment, he is focusing on running his auto shop and his YouTube channel Kamikaze Life, where he shows some of the behind-the-scenes effort that goes into building some of the crazy rides. You can't help but appreciate the effort and dedication that goes into some of these cars. Has to be really sad losing them, just like Chris lost the Elko. So pretty much Chris hasn't been idle and has some good streams of income to keep him going. He also had a pretty important announcement for his fans who loved the Elko. Turns out he is making efforts to rebuild the Elko. However, he has said that the project might take a while, given the extent of the damage we all saw on that vehicle. The project will no doubt be a capital-intensive one, especially at the moment that Chris has a new baby on the tracks once again. It makes total sense that Chris wants the car back on the track, not only because his fans might have loved seeing him in the car, or that he must have gotten used to driving it. The car holds some really important sentimental value for Chris, having belonged to an old friend, with whom he had shared everything growing up. We keep our fingers crossed on this and look forward to seeing how this will work out later on. Over the years that Chris has been on the tracks, he has become popular with a lot of people. So, just after the crash, it didn't take long for the people that he referred to in the video as friends from up north to reach out to him. They sold him an idea to get a car that they had on sale then, and Chris didn't want to let the opportunity pass him by. Chris keeps a lot of things about him private, which includes his net worth, but from the little information that we gathered, we were able to place his net worth at about $300,000, so he had something to get him going again and pay for the new car. Some who follow his channel must have seen the transportation of this new car, which turned out to be a heavily modified CT Vet. Chris had the car in the garage by the time he made this video and revealed that he was working on the car to make it adaptable to the tracks that he races in. Despite the modifications that he had been doing on the CT Vet, He admitted that the car is also really fast, at least with what he had seen with the test drive. Chris, as a measure to get back on his feet and recover from the loss he faced on the track, had already auctioned some of the parts of the Elko that survived the crash. The fact that the parts came with his autographs and were part of the legendary Elko made them fetch a reasonable price, about $20,000. Personal life. Currently, not much is known about Chris's personal life, especially his relationship status. No one knows if he is married or not. Maybe the racer has truly committed his whole life to racing and has not found time to attend to the matters of the heart. There's also a good chance that he might have had something going on for him in the past that no one knows of. Whatever might be the case, the resilience and courage that Chris has displayed over these few years is quite impressive and inspiring for anyone who wants to venture into street racing. He still carries on with that thrill and love that he developed for life on the tracks when he was little, a legacy inherited from his father. Certainly his old man will be smiling down on him wherever he is. So that's it for the amazing and inspiring life of Kamikaze Chris and the unfortunate accident that has tampered with his career on Street Outlaws. The show keeps serving it hot, and we look forward to having Chris back on the screens. Till then, keep the love for the thrills alive, and we will see you in the next video.